About the Badger Cull, one of the most disgusting and ridiculous wastes of public money there has been for some considerable time, not to mention how much cruelty is going on.
Yeah.
Jay Tiernan is the spokesman for Stop the Cull. He joins us now. Jay, good evening.
Good evening, James.
This made the front page of the Mirror today. A lot of people say perhaps there were more important things the Mirror should have been talking about, but it is something that I think the British public would, if they realised what was going on, would want to stop. What I don't understand is why the government are paying out our hard-earned money to do this when we haven't got much money, apparently.
Well, I think that it's fairly obvious that their core supporters, one of their core supporters is farmers. The farmers always vote for the Tory party, and it's although it's fairly, they've spent £30–40 million on the policy, that's a small amount of money to keep a group of people happy. And it's a group of people who, with tighter and tighter regulations, are becoming less and less happy with what the government are doing to them.
Wait till we leave Europe, Jay. Then they'll have more to complain about because the huge amounts of money they got in subsidies won't be coming along. Joking apart, a lot of farmers, I live in the country, and not all farmers are keen on this. A lot of farmers don't think the badgers have anything to do with it.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people in the countryside are as against the Badger Cull as anyone else. There is a core group of people who are determined to see the Badger Cull go ahead. And what we see is that those people who are organising the Badger Culls frequently pressure and lean on people within the farming community to go ahead with the Badger Cull. A lot of those people don't actually want to go ahead with it, but the fact is they do go ahead with it. They have to pay for it themselves. It's not all paid for by the government. The government do pay a lot of money into it, but the farming community do pay for it. And at the end of the day, the farming community is going to suffer for it. It is very much a PR disaster. If you're trying to, you see all of the time, there's more and more stories coming out about. There was recently the humane milk is a myth story. There was the NFU got in and they were saying, we've got to defend the dairy industry. Stories like this on the front page of the Mirror don't do the dairy industry any favours at all.
Why do you think the people who have been employed to do this Badger Cull must have known that the eyes were going to be on them? Why haven't they been more careful about the way they have been doing it?
I think that generally a lot of the people involved are amateurs. Previously, we saw Badger Culls in the UK. The Labour Party went ahead with them to see if they could say categorically what the difference would be if we killed badgers. They did that for years and years and years. The result was it makes no meaningful difference. So then farmers wanted, so they still believed that the badgers were responsible. So the government said, OK, if you want to do it, you do it. And they came up with this the cheapest possible method, which was actually free shooting. What you saw on the front page of the Mirror today was cage trapping. The badgers are killed in two methods. Cage trapping, someone goes around in the morning, shoots them with a shotgun. The other method, badgers are drawn from their sets in family groups to bait points where they put down peanuts and they shoot them with high-powered rifles. A lot of those badgers, something like 20% of them, take up to 10 minutes to die. And it's horribly
Well, I thought they were shot by marksmen who are supposed to know what they're doing.
Well, they are supposed to be shot by marksmen who are supposed to know what they're doing, but a lot of people have an idea that, I'll shoot them in the head. Even though they're taught, they do training days, they're taught and they're told categorically shoot them in the heart. They aim for other parts of the body. And after the first year, there was an independent expert panel. It looked at all of the data, it looked at all of the bodies, and there was huge numbers of people who weren't following the guidelines. And what we saw was basically the guidelines completely changed.
Can they not? Go on.
They changed all of the guidelines. So previously we had things like, I'll give you an example, the cage traps that you see on the front page of the Mirror. In the first year, after you shot a badger, you had to put soil in, you had to turn all of the soil over. So the blood and guts weren't there. So you couldn't see them. So we found examples that those guidelines weren't being followed. The next year, they just changed the guidelines. Now I've got 11 pictures in the last week of blood and guts, and I've seen it myself. I've seen blood and brain matter on the floor, and it was there the following day. If you're going to tell the British public that you are going to kill badgers to stop a disease, how can you do that and leave blood and brains across the countryside?
This isn't helping TB. It isn't eradicating TB. Areas where badgers have been killed hasn't proved any way at all that it is actually controlling TB. There is TB in a lot of animals that are wild in this country. Why are we picking on badgers?
I think that because it's been shown that badgers have the disease, and farmers have been told over and over again that badgers play a part in it. And like anyone, with any situation, when you're told you're at fault, you try to say, well, no, it's not my fault, it's someone else's fault. And I think that the farmers are having harder and harder cattle regulations, and they don't like those cattle regulations because it means that they can't make as much money, and they don't want to take the entire responsibility. They have to look for someone to blame. I've got the government figures that they were released on September the 11th for the amount of BTB in each of the coal zones. And the first year, before the coal in Dorset, there was 26 outbreaks inside the coal zone. The year after, there was 35. In Gloucestershire, the year before, there was 18 outbreaks inside the coal zone. The year after, 29. In Somerset, there was 30 the year before the Badger Cull. The year after, it was 29, so it went down by 1. In Somerset, all of the others, it's shot up. How can you sell that as a policy and say that we're controlling a disease? It's ridiculous.
I have no idea, and I hope somebody sees sense before long, and I hope that the people who, sadly, because, you know, I used to shoot, and I still shoot a bow and arrow. I don't shoot at animals, by the way, and I know that people get a kick out of doing it, which I find now quite disgusting. I have to say, I would only want to kill something if I was going to eat it, and actually I don't need to kill it to eat it anyway. But this is obviously being, I would have thought, perpetrated by people who actually are getting a kick out of doing it.
We look at the number of hours it takes to shoot a badger. Those figures, again, government figures, and it shows that you have to go out 2 nights in a row to actually kill one badger for a lot of people. Now, they're 4-hour shifts. They go out twice, and they get £10 for that badger. Now, that you have to pay for your own fuel costs out of that. So you go out for 2 nights, for 4 hours, through the countryside, facing hunt saboteurs, badger patrollers, and you're going to end up earning £10 for killing one badger, and you've got to split that with your mate. So you've got £5 for 2 nights' work. So what sort of person does that?
It's appealing to the bloodlust, the same sort of nutcase that we would see in the papers posing with a dead giraffe or a dead elephant, like the American dentist who...
The lion.
These are people who are, in my view, and I've been there, so I feel I can speak about this with some conviction. And these, listen, I like shooting. And
there's no challenge in shooting a lion.
There's no challenge in shooting anything near killing it. What do you want to kill an animal for? If you want to prove
with your bare hands, it would be impressive.
Stop being so ridiculous.
No, but I mean,
just sit down and shut up. I apologise, Jay. He's completely mad.
No, but I mean, it would be.
I think that's why we see so many shooters who are very keen at the sport doing clay pigeon shooting. They're not doing it because they don't like shooting pheasants. They do it because they see a sport in clay pigeon shooting. It's actually quite hard to shoot a clay pigeon.
Exactly.
They're not anti-shooting pheasants. A lot of people who enjoy clay pigeon shooting are pro-shooting pheasants, but they see that the real sport is in something that's a lot faster. And I think that to say that shooting a badger that you've drawn out with peanuts has just sat there 30 metres away from you is ridiculous. What we see on Facebook is people gloating, saying, oh, I've got a stripey, because the badgers are a protected species. It isn't lawful to do it. And it's just like the African big game hunters. They've got something under their belt. I've killed a badger. I was part of the Badger Cull. And they're a very small minority of people, and they can only gloat amongst themselves. Because if they did it publicly, they wouldn't get any support.
Jay, thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you. Jay Tiernan there, who is from Stop the Cull. And I think it is a pretty disgusting thing to do. You haven't got any other way of getting your kicks. You're a very sad person. And I wonder if some people have a psychological problem that makes them want to do that.